Denise, are you ready? Good evening, and welcome to the regularly scheduled Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on June 9th, 2025, at the courthouse, at the townhouse at Plymouth, Massachusetts. Tonight, we have a couple of cases that we want to dispose of, and then we have a 40B case, and we'll talk about that at length in a couple of minutes. But first, I would like to start off with case number 4167. Amanda LaFord, 6 Resnick Road. And I will ask the clerk to read the advertisement into the mail, into the record, into the mail. Ooh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Case number 4167, the Plymouth Zoning Board of Appeals on the zoning bylaw will hold a public hearing in the Great Hall, Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass. on Monday, June 9th, 2025 at 6 p.m. to hear the petition of Amanda LaFord requesting a special permit required per section 20512 LI Use Table D27 to allow a personal service establishment use in the light industrial zoning district on the property of 6 Resnick Road, shown as parcel 103-000-014K 127 of the assessor's map dated January 1, 2024 in an LI zone. The petitioner or his or her representative or any other person interested in desiring to be heard on this request should appear at the time and place designated.
Thank you. Seated on this case will be Mr. Leary, Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Peck, and Mr. Wallace, and myself. Who will be presenting, please?
Amanda LaFond, these are my 2 business partners, Rebecca Fergus, and Christy Silver.
Okay, go right ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're just looking for a
Is the light on?
There you go.
We're just looking for a special permit to open a small 6-chair hair salon inside of an office building on Resnick Road. We are by appointment only, no walk-in service. What else?
There's already existing plumbing in our space, and what we are adding is actually not even adding, where it can already accommodate what we're putting in there.
Okay, any preliminary questions from the board? Yes.
Do you need any special signage on the building, or is this, as you said, by appointment only?
So we're going to be all rentals, so all of us already have our own clientele, but there is signage for the building out front anyway that we are able to use.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Any other comments at this point?
Oh, that's pretty straightforward on this one.
Okay. I'm going to open this to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or against this petition? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the board. Have you anything else you would like to talk about?
I don't think so, unless you guys have any questions for us, but
Well, like you said, it's pretty straightforward. Any other questions? I've read all of the material with this, and I know where the place is, so I await the board's discussion and pleasure.
I would move approval of case 4167 as presented.
I'll second it, but we should add the standard condition for the taxes and a second condition that all concerns raised by the fire department and DPW be addressed before occupancy permit.
So, tax,
I can add that, right?
yep. Satisfied. And we don't need him to come back for that.
No.
Okay, I have a motion to approve case number 4167, and with two conditions. One is a standard tax condition that goes on all of our permits. And the second one is that there was a little bit of stuff from the DPW and the fire department, and you just got to make sure that they're satisfied before Mr. Sylvia will give you an occupancy permit.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy your business.
Thank you.
All right. We have a seated board member that was a little bit late due to traffic concerns or whatever, and it's going to take him a minute to boot his computer up, and then we will go right into that.
Keep going, he'll take
Other
more
case.
than a minute to boot this thing
No.
with all these papers. And accept my apologies, everybody.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to case 4168, Avalon Bay, Canso. Case number 4168, I will ask the clerk to read the legal advertisement.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. The Plymouth, case number 4168, the Plymouth Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on June 9, 2025 at 6 p.m. at Plymouth Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass., in the Great Hall to hear the application for a comprehensive permit filed by Avalon Bay Communities, Inc., pursuant to Chapter 40B, Section 2023 of the Massachusetts General Law. The proposed project, to be known as Avalon Canso, is to construct 300 rental units under the Local Initiative Program in 2 buildings with associated parking, garages, and amenities on approximately 9 acres located at 700 Colony Place, Plymouth, Mass., parcel ID 104-000-026-040, and within the Mixed Commerce Zoning District, as shown on plans by Bowler Engineering, Inc., 25% of the proposed rental units will be deed restricted for lower moderate income housing at 80% AMI. A copy of the application may be viewed in the town clerk's office during regular business hours. The petitioner or his or her representative and any other person desiring to be heard on this matter should appear at the time and place designated.
Thank you. Seated on this case will be Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Conroy, Mr. Connor, Mr. Wallace, and myself. Who will be presenting? Oh, I'm sorry. So seated will be Mr. Wallace, Mr. Connor, yes, Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Leary, and myself, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman and members of the board. My name is David Gillespie. I'm the Senior Vice President of Development for Avalon Bay Communities. And, we're happy to be here back in the town of Plymouth to present to you Avalon Council Plymouth. I could start with some introductory remarks about the site in general. I know, I assume many of you are already familiar with it. It has a long history, Colony Place in general, and this site was subject to a previous application that was in front of this board. This is the last major development site within Colony Place, and I just wanted to note for the record that while there was a previous application, that application was abandoned, and this.
Go ahead.
Okay.
But
And-
I kind of forgot to do one thing.
Sure.
For the audience.
Sure.
Especially, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
fine.
I had asked earlier that our attorney explain to the people the differences between what we're having here tonight, a 40B, a friendly 40B, a lip, and she's going to take a couple of minutes and explain it. I am so sorry.
Not a problem at all, please.
Okay.
Good evening. For the record, Haley Wright Feist with KP Law. Through you, Mr. Chair. So the local initiative program is a type of 40B. It is typically called a friendly 40B, and basically what that means is that the town, through the select board, has agreed to support this project with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, subject to certain criteria outlined in a document called the Memorandum of Agreement. This is typically mitigation criteria. For example, with this project, the applicant has agreed to contribute and/or construct a water pump to address any water concerns in the area. Otherwise, it moves along like any other traditional 40B in every sense. The ZBA can take any action that they deem appropriate. Mr. Chair, does that satisfy your question?
There you go. Okay, thank you. Now, go ahead.
Oh, please.
And again, I apologize.
Not a problem at all. Thanks for the time, and I appreciate the overview. I think that, just so everyone knows, I know that this was a previous application. That application has been abandoned. Although I would note that the subject site that we're talking about here is not the entirety of what Claremont Company owns. We are only building on a 9-acre site, the sand lot that's closest to the roundabout. We are not building on the basin parcel, which, you know, has been subject to some controversy over time. After Claremont abandoned their previous proposal, they then worked with the select board to come up with the memorandum of agreement that was mentioned by your town council. Claremont, now Avalon, will be taking on the responsibilities as outlined in that memorandum, and we're excited to be here. We submitted the application earlier this year to EOHLC. That was approved. We received a letter of eligibility, and very similar, we prepared those same documents and submitted them in front of you tonight with obviously some more detail, the detail that's required as part of a zoning board of applications 40B application. So with that, I'm going to start tonight. I'm David Gillespie, and I'm going to turn it over to some other members of my team, design professionals, who can talk you through some of the technical and architectural elements of our proposal. But I'm going to just quickly highlight a few things for those that aren't familiar with us. Not sure if this remote, I'm not, can I advance to the next slide? This didn't,
There are arrows on here.
Yep. Okay. I'll just do quickly an overview about Avalon Bay just for a moment for those of you that aren't familiar with us. Avalon Bay is a national apartment ownership company. We own apartments all over the country. We own 90,000 apartments across the country. But what's unique to Avalon Bay is that we own those apartments ourselves, we construct them ourselves, we manage them ourselves, we develop them ourselves. And what that unique operating model provides is that I'm here in front of you today, I'm an Avalon Bay associate. The person who constructs this project will be an Avalon Bay associate, and the town and members of the community will have that person's cell phone number during construction. And then the person who leases you your apartment or fixes your air conditioner when we own the property later in the life cycle will be an Avalon Bay associate as well. So we don't outsource those things. Those are in-house things, and it allows us to have really what I call a through line of accountability from the commitments that I start to make tonight to you to the day that we own and operate, you know, into the future. But that said, we have a national platform, but we're also regionally controlled. So I sit in our Boston office. I only work on projects in Massachusetts, and that has served us well because real estate is a local business, and we need to have professionals in our local offices in order to, you know, be successful and deliver the type of service that we expect from our associates. We have a long history in Massachusetts. We've built for over 30 years, and over our 30-year history, we have always had a project under construction. And we've built a lot of communities in Massachusetts, and we own most of them still. As I said before, we act as our own general contractor, and we have a strong history of working on collaborative processes such as these, LIP applications, friendly 40Bs, 40Rs. We've worked on all manner of housing permitting paths, and LIP is one of our favorites because I think it it really does put the town in the driver's seat up front as it relates to, what they want and what the vision is and what the appropriate mitigation is for a project of this size. And then the next slide, and we can look at it in a second, but it's, just want to note that we're already property owners in the town of Plymouth. We own several buildings in the Pine Hills that we built. The first phase we built in the early 2000s. I was the project manager for the second phase, which we built in 2012, 2013. It's a total of 192 homes, and we've owned the initial apartments we built there for over 20 years. So we have a longstanding commitment to the town of Plymouth, and we're happy to be back. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ed Bradford, who is our architect from the architectural team, and he's going to talk through the architectural elements of our proposal. Thank you. That's the Pine Hills. Okay, just one more after that. These are just photos of the Pine Hills, as I mentioned, but we can go on.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. As Dave said, I'm Ed Bradford, principal with TAT Architects on the community. I have a short presentation just to walk you through the architectural design site plan layout for the community. This first exhibit is the site plan. We prepared this to kind of highlight some of the programmatic elements of the design. The site layout includes two buildings, two L-shaped buildings. The building to the right side, or the east side of the site plan, is Building 1. That includes 133 apartment homes. The building to the left side, or the west side of the site layout, is Building 2. That includes 167 apartment homes. So 300 apartment homes, as was noted. There's a mix of apartment home types. There are approximately 60% of the homes are studio or one-bedroom types. 30% are two-bedroom types. And then consistent with the comprehensive permit regulations, 10% are three-bedroom types. The layout is driven, or I guess I should say the heart of the layout, the focal point of the layout is the central courtyard. So that's the space in the center of the layout. It's a space that measures about 200 feet by 220 feet, so it's a very generous outdoor space. It's set up and, of course, framed by the two L-shaped buildings and protected by them. And then on the perimeter is the parking. So the parking consists of 509 parking spaces. It's just about 1.7 spaces per apartment home. They're also convenient, of course, to the apartments and to the entrances to each of the apartment buildings. But by creating this courtyard in the center, separate from the parking, of course, it creates a secure outdoor amenity that we think will be a really wonderful place for residents to gather, hang out. That's not compromised by the parking that is about the perimeter. The primary entrance, or the entrance to the community, is just off of the roundabout into that loop of parking. There's also a series or a couple types of accessory structures. There are 8 detached garage buildings for a total of 40 of those parking spaces are in detached garages. So they're located, you can see, to the north and to the east, adjacent to the car dealership parking lot, and then to the southwest corner near the Sawyer's Reach community. So again, 40 detached parking bays for folks to provide another option for parking. And then the other accessory structure that I should note is in the northeast corner, again, adjacent to the car dealership lot. And that is the primary location for trash and recycling. So importantly, the trash and recycling is located within that structure. So there are no outdoor dumpsters, open air dumpsters. Trash is all contained in that central structure. The way it's set up is that all of the residents will bring their trash and recyclables to that structure. There's scheduled periodic pickup by a hauler that would come, remove the self-contained compactor. So again, convenient location for trash, but in an enclosed structure. A couple aspects of the landscape design, as I noted, the heart of the design for sure, the focal point is the courtyard. So some of the programming that happens within that courtyard includes a couple terraces. They're kind of located at the knuckles of each of the inside corners of each of the apartment buildings. So that would include grills and lounge seating associated with each of those terraces. Right in the center of the courtyard is a central lawn. We call it a game lawn. That has synthetic turf, and that's just as the name implies, game lawn, so for folks to play cornhole while they're grilling. Again, we think it'll be a pretty wonderful place to spend some time. And then, of course, paths that create connections to all of this. So building 2 on the left-hand side has 2 elevator cores, so we, of course, have connections to each of those locations. And then building 1 on the right-hand side has 1 elevator core, and providing important connections to each of those lobbies and each of those stairs for folks to get convenient access in and out of the building. And it's probably a little bit hard to pick up, but we've organized those lobbies so they run straight through the building. So as one enters the building from the parking lot, they would see directly through to the courtyard amenity within. The courtyard also includes a small children's playground. And then it's pretty hard to notice in this layout, but to the far left, just above the garage structure that is on the far left-hand side of the plan, there's a small dog park as well. And other aspects of the landscape layout include some pretty dense evergreen plantings along the southern property line, common to Sawyer's Reach community, and then along the eastern property line, common to the car dealership property. What's this? Oh. Thank you. A couple more exhibits here to focus on the architecture. This is a rendering from the roundabout, Calling Place roundabout, and we're of course elevated a little bit here, not quite at eye level. But we're proposing a massing that is not too dissimilar to the buildings that are nearby, across the street and adjacent. It's a massing that's mostly clean, rectilinear, but you can see we have introduced a kind of wrinkle compared to some of the buildings nearby, and that is the angled roof line that is at the ends or the corners of each building. So you can see that sloped roof line. That's, of course, intended to be complementary to a more traditional roof line, residential roof line, in a more contemporary way. And we've done the same thing with the material palette. So these end caps that are part of that massing that includes the sloped roof line are clad in a shingle, kind of a Cape Cod gray shingle, so that, of course, a texture that's familiar to the neighborhood, to the region. The color palette, we're looking again at the neighborhood, at the region, so it kind of has a coastal New England color palette. Again, the Cape Cod gray shingle. The main body of the building is clad in a sand clapboard. So again, traditional residential material. And then you can see the kind of bluish gray accents that provide a little bit of color punch, a little bit of accent. They're pretty large windows, generous windows. Because we have that interior courtyard, we have the existing woodlands to the west and we have the existing woodlands to the north. The vast majority of these apartment homes have great views. They're either looking in on the interior courtyard and many others are looking out at the woods. So we wanted to make sure we have windows, strategically placed balconies, so folks can, take advantage of that view. Next slide, please. So this is the last exhibit for me, just again to touch on a quick overview of the architecture. This exhibit dives a little bit deeper on just what we're proposing for the cladding materials. So there are really three, as I noted in the last exhibit, three primary cladding materials. The first, and this is consistent with what we have in the comprehensive permit drawing application, includes what we call color one, and that's that sand or beige-like color. That's the primary field. That's the color that occupies the majority, if you will, of the elevation. In addition to that, we have what's called color two. That happens, again, at the end caps, as I noted. That is that Cape Cod gray shingle material. That happens at the end caps, where you can see the balconies, that are vertical slot of balconies that are associated. And then also importantly, to break up the massing, to reduce the scale of the building, also introduced in vertical slots. So those light vertical slots that you see running along the facade periodically, those again are meant to break up the massing of the building. Those are also clad in that same shingle material. And then finally, what we call color three is the accent. That's the punch of a little bit of color that I mentioned. Bluish gray, again, along this coastal New England color theme, again, provides a little bit of accent and punch strategically. And then finally, you can see in the darker color, each of the entries, whether it happens to be this main entry to building 2, a stair entry, or some of the other elevator lobbies, we've introduced a kind of accent. That's that darker color that you see in the middle. That is the color we use for the canopies to cover. Each of those entries has a small canopy associated with it. And then we spend a little extra time on trim and other details that don't quite show up here at this scale, but trim and other accents with this darker color, again, to give a bit of punch, to emphasize the importance of each of those entries. So, yeah, all told, we think this color palette, these materials create a cohesive, kind of layered effect that we think is appropriate for the neighborhood, appropriate for the region. That wraps up my presentation, a quick presentation on the architecture.
Good evening, members of the board and Mr. Chairman. My name is Tim Hayes of Bowler Engineering. I'm an associate on the civil engineering side. If we could go to the next slide, what I'll do is I'll go through the public utilities and the approach we've taken at a high level. And before I do so, I'd like to acknowledge that we have received a peer review letter from Beals and Thomas, as well as some engineering comments from the engineering department of Plymouth. We intend to provide a written response and any design modifications for those as we go through this process here. But to start with, the overall drainage strategy here, this map is zoomed out. It's showing the 60 plus or minus acres of Colony Place that drain to the large infiltration basin. So in green, what we have on the left-hand side, on the western side, is a large infiltration basin and the forebay that essentially both the purple and the blue drain to. The rest of the developments have already been built out. As Dave mentioned, this is the last major parcel here. And the site coverage that we're proposing here is very similar to what was planned during the Colony Place subdivision. So we're not really changing the overall drainage strategy here. And if we could go to the next slide, we can go into a more zoomed in version of the site itself. This may be a little bit hard to read, but essentially what's happening on the site today is there's two large drain mains that one traverses the north side of the site going from east to west and heading down south to get to the forebay, and that's a 42-inch RCP pipe. And then there's also another 36-inch pipe, which also picks up the other half of the 60 acres I just described. That's on the southern half of the site. Both those are contained within easements. They always plan for drainage from this site to tie into them. Both of those converge into a large forebay that's off to the left here on the sheet on the western side that provides the sediment treatment for the drainage, and then it overflows into the large infiltration basin. So what we've done is we've looked at the drainage, very in keeping with the previous, proposals and the Colony Place subdivision. What we'll be most in tune and working on is providing the water quality needed through the Mass DEP and Plymouth standards. So we're going to have water quality treatment units, and we'll have deep sump catch basins on the site that collect all of the drainage. That'll all be conveyed to either the northernmost drain main or the southernmost drain main that I was referring to, which will then obviously go into the further treatment for the forebay and the drainage infiltration basin. So when that basin was sized, it was sized pretty conservatively, and there's great draining soils here in Plymouth. So what we've done and looked at in our calculations is that there's ample storage and capacity for what we're planning here. So next slide, please. And then on the sewer side, so there are stubs to the site today that drain to an 8-inch main in Colony Place, which then drain to a private pump station, which is called the Plaza Way Pump Station. This is the last developable parcel that would tie into that pump station. It's owned and operated privately, and it was essentially planned for a development of this mix of use and residential bedrooms that would come in here. So we have a very similar proposal going into that pump station. From there, that sewage is actually pumped out to the industrial park pump station, where it's handled by the town itself. So then on the water side of stuff, I know the solicitor had mentioned already that the applicant here is committed to providing the design and construction of the off-site water booster, but there are actually some water stubs on site, which we would provide a loop around the entire site, which would provide for our hydrants, would provide for our fire suppression connections to the building, and the domestic connections to both buildings. On the electrical and telecom, there's actually services kind of already planned and put in Colony Place for us, so we'll be tapping in pretty much at the curb line there. So as far as a overall utility and drainage strategy, I think the site was very well planned already for, with stubs located here for all these various utilities, and we're trying to make use of that the best we can and really not make too many changes to what those were already installed for us. So, Dave?
Thanks, Tim. That concludes our prepared presentation, and with that, I'd be happy to take any questions from the board.
Okay. Questions, preliminary questions for the board? Anybody?
I guess many detailed questions, but the first obvious one is, in terms of site layout, you have parking spaces that do not meet our bylaw, and you have traveled ways that do not meet our bylaw. So how can you sort of justify that particular approach?
Well, when we got that comment back from the letter from the town, so I think what we would do, two things. One is we're going to investigate all of those comments and comply with them, as many of them as we can. And then if not, in certain instances, we may need to apply for a waiver as it relates to some of those dimensional requirements. But we're first going to try to comply with all of them in our next pass of the design. And to the extent we can't, we'll come back and talk to you more about a waiver if appropriate.
So you are planning and expecting to come back with changes to the design?
Well, yes, only because there have been comments from, peer review comments from the civil engineer, peer review comments from the town in various departments, and I think that's part of the process. This is the start of the process, so we would expect that from the board and from town departments, we would get, comments, and we would try to incorporate as many of those as possible and then come back and talk about the ones that we couldn't.
And then do two others quickly, and I'll let colleagues add theirs. Have you done a shadow study in the courtyard? Because it strikes me that with a 6-story building completely surrounding it with your
Sure.
two Ls, I'm not sure how much sunlight and how long the amount of sunlight will be in that courtyard.
Sure. Well, so two comments. I think that, first, they're 5-story buildings. They're not 6-story
5,
buildings.
okay.
It's okay.
Sorry.
And then the second is that site, Ed mentioned the dimensions, but for those of us that don't live in the dimension world every day, that's an acre. That's basically an acre of green space between those two buildings. And we have not done a shadow study, but it's something that we've done. And I think with Ed and his team, we take their advice very seriously. We have built 5-story buildings in courtyards that work very well that are much, much smaller than this. The rule of thumb is that if a building is 5 stories tall, you want probably 50 or 60 feet as minimum dimension in width for it to be considered to be a nice courtyard. In this instance, Ed mentioned, I think your minimum dimension is 200 feet, which means that, we have almost about 4 times the width that we would need in a minimum case to make it a nice courtyard.
And my final is, I'm a retired architect.
Sure.
And I would ask the architect to do studies that emphasize the horizontality, applying the color palette with one color, say it going up to 3 stories and a totally different color in 4 or 5, so to make it look like a more horizontal than a vertical layout. Because you've got some just 5 floors of one of your colors going up and down, which I think is kind of bland. So I would request studies without changing the footprint or things of a different use of your palette to minimize the apparent look of this, the massing. So those are my preliminary comments, Mr. Chair.
Just one right now, and that is, you have 5 stories. The angular thing on
Sure.
top, it looks like 5.5 stories. What's the height to the top of that?
I don't know off the top of my head. What's the
building.
We may have it, but I have so many 100 pictures here.
Yeah, no,
I
I know.
can't find it.
We'll cut to
I
the
think it's
chase.
55.
The building height, according to the zoning definition, is 59 feet. I'd have to calculate the height to the top of the angled roof line. I really do have to calculate. It's probably in the neighborhood of 10 feet, but I'd have to
Yeah.
measure that to get back to you.
We'll certainly
So
respond.
You're saying the building itself, the 5 floors, is 59 feet?
Yes, according to the definition of height in the zoning ordinance.
But in a practical sense, once we do the site work on site, it's less than that, right? Not from a zoning code point of view, but how tall is the building from the ground floor to the top? 59?
Yeah.
And so you're surmising right now it's probably 69 feet?
We'd have to get back to you. We want to answer the question precisely, so let us get back to you with a precise answer.
Can you answer that tonight?
We can't.
Okay, thank you.
Michael? Deal with anything that you want to deal with right at the moment, please.
Okay, so,
Is
I
your
know this.
microphone on? Speak into the microphone. Let everybody hear you.
So I know there's 3 of us that probably aren't going to be thrilled with the 9-foot parking spaces, and we actually would like to go to 10. So just doing simple math and bringing it down, you can actually make the site into 10-foot parking spaces other than for EVs and whatever. So, because like you have 375 standard parking spaces at 9 by 18, 54 compact spaces by 8 by 5 by 18. But if you refigure all those, you come up with 383 versus your 429, which means a loss of 46 spaces, but you can get to the 10, which is the bylaw. So I think, I know there's 3 of us that probably would like to see that. Yeah.
So I think we'll study it. As a practical matter, I think what we will probably propose back to the board is some 10-foot spaces, some 9-foot spaces, and maybe some compact spaces.
Let me stop you right there.
Sure,
Please.
This board has a history
sure.
of 10-foot parking spaces. Avalon has them, Oasis has them, they all have them, and they all tried for 9 foot, and we would not relent. And 9-foot parking places in this town are a safety hazard. And I can tell you a story why, but I'm not going to do that. In our opinion, they're a safety hazard. They're not wide enough for big enough vehicles, and there's plenty of full-size vehicles on the road. We just made the hospital put 10-foot parking places in. So you can take that 9-foot parking place, other than if you have assigned parking places, and I assume those garages are assigned parking places, 9 foot's fine, okay? But anything outside of assigned parking will be 10 feet.
Okay, thank you for the comment.
And it would still, if you go to the 10, if you go to the 10 footers, you'd still be over the minimum that's required. So that was just my point, because you only lose 46 on those standard ones.
Okay, thank you.
I'm writing notes as quick as I can.
Nope, that's up.
You
Take your
go
time.
right ahead.
Parking spaces already raised. I noticed we've got 28 comments from the peer review, which I'm not going to test John since you
Sure.
only got it 5 days ago.
Yep.
But I
We're going to
would-
respond in writing, sir.
Yeah, but I would also stress, you look at the fire department comments in
sure.
terms of turning radius and access there as well.
Absolutely.
Among those many others that you're going to have to deal with.
Yep, no, happy to do so. Thanks.
If you want to talk about any of these while we're going through this, please.
No, I think the technical comments and the dimensional comments, we want to respond in whole, and we want to say, this is the plan, and we've fixed it to respond to as many of these comments we can and make sure we have the right strategies. So I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver would be the way that I would say it. I think we understand your comments. We're taking them all in. It's our first hearing. We are thankful for the feedback. We want all the feedback so that we can do our best and make a project that works for the town of Plymouth and for us.
Good, good. Mr. Wallace, have you anything?
My comment would also fall in terms of the peer review.
Okay.
There are certainly some questions in drainage to start with, and you have a copy of that.
Yes, we do.
And so those kinds of conditions going to have to be discussed and met.
Yeah, I think that.
And they are considerable.
Yes, and I think from our perspective, we've read them. We're not in a position tonight to go through every single one of them. We could at the next meeting if that's the pleasure of the board. But what we're going to do is respond in writing. I think we think we can answer most of them and deal with most of them so that they don't have to be conditioned, that they're technical comments that the two engineers can talk about and come to an agreement on, or we can make a slight plan change that makes it go away. But if it has to live in a condition, then we can talk about conditions when the time's appropriate.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mr. Sylvia, do you have anything you would like to add to this right at the moment?
No, we don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay.
So,
All right.
I do have another couple comments.
Yes,
Your
please.
questions here. So anyways, on your waivers, you have the density, from the 20 units per acre to the 33. But don't you have an exemption for the density for the comprehensive permits, right?
Yeah, so we have an attorney here who can answer this if I don't get the words exactly right, but from my perspective, I think that's the whole point of a comprehensive permit, is that you request waivers, those waivers are granted by the board as part of the comprehensive permit. So that's why we've requested that waiver, because we need it.
Yeah, but there is an exemption for that. Then the other one, so I get down here, I have a question mark on the height. You got down here 45 feet. What is that to, because I know you just mentioned another height.
59.
I think-
59.
I think what that was saying is that the zoning, I think that's on the zoning table for the
It's on the sheet for waivers.
requested waiver sheet, okay. Do you mind telling me which section is? Which section of the bylaw? It's in the left column, I'm just trying to look at it While we're here. You have it, Ed? Yeah. So I think what it's saying is that the zoning height is 45 feet.
Proposed is saying greater than 45
Yeah,
feet.
so we didn't put the number on the table. What we're saying, what we were saying in this table is that the allowed height is 45 feet, and we're greater than 45 feet, and therefore we're requesting a waiver. And I understand the question from before that we need to get precise dimensions on all of these heights, and we will do that.
So, let me ask you something. You've done these 40Bs before, right?
Yes.
You know we need that kind of information. That's standard on a blueprint, elevations and things like that. That, I hope your next set of plans is a little bit more intense.
Sure. We know what, the zoning height is 59 feet. I think the zoning height isn't calculated to the top of that parapet, which is what the question was.
And that is shown in the drawing.
So if that's shown in the drawings, the height as measured in the zoning code. What the question that was asked is, what's the height to the top of the slope parapet, which isn't the zoning code, and we'll calculate that and get it for you.
We want all of the information on the blueprint.
Okay,
And that's not there.
okay, we'll certainly provide that, thank you.
Anything else, Mike?
I'm just going backwards to it. I'm looking in the parking.
David?
On building code question, I assume this is Section 5A, because it's over 4 stories? And will it meet the new building code, which goes into effect June 30th?
Yeah, the project is designed according to the 10th edition of the Mass Building Code, no, it's not type 5 construction, it's type 3 construction, because it's a 5-story building. Type 5 construction will be for 4 stories or
Okay,
under.
so it's type 3, and it will meet the new code?
It will.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Have you anything else you'd like to add at this point?
No, I think tonight, the goal of tonight was to provide our introductory comments, and I appreciate all the feedback from the board. As mentioned, Mr. Chair, we have some work to follow up on, so we will do that as it relates to the peer reviews and the comments from the town staff and the questions from tonight, and we will do that and get it through the
Okay.
zoning
How
department.
long do you anticipate it's going to take you to get this material all together? And get it so that the town can review your
Sure.
stuff and everything, give us a chance to look at it?
Yep.
How long?
I expect that we could have the feedback to you within the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Now we're going to go to the boss.
Sure.
Denise, what say you about the calendar?
July 7th is the 2 informals that we talked about.
Well, the meeting after that is nothing, correct?
July 21st is nothing.
Okay. Can you be ready by July the 21st?
Certainly.
Okay. We're going to,
We could be ready by July the 7th if there's an opening on that night.
well, because this will be another very lengthy hearing.
Sure.
And fairness to other applicants.
I understand.
So what I want to do, ladies and gentlemen, I know you've been patient and you've sat here and you've listened to this, but as you can tell, there's going to be a significant amount of changes to this project. And so I'm reluctant to take public comment at this point because you can only speak once on this matter, and it's a time-limited thing. And so without all of the information, I don't think it's fair to you folks to have to get up here and talk about something that is not a completed project yet. We will have public comment, and there will be plenty of time for you folks to weigh in one way or another. They first have to go back and preliminarily satisfy are concerns that we mentioned tonight, and that is more than enough to keep them busy for a little while. When they do come back, hopefully, a lot of your questions will have been satisfied, and we're residents too. We know what's at stake here. We know how the people feel. So it's not like we're in a vacuum. But in fairness to you and in fairness to the petitioner, I would rather not take public comment tonight. Yes.
So I just wanted to add, within the information, A5.01 in the architectural details shows the elevations of the building and shows the height of the building. So there are some details here that show the actual height. It does detail the maximum height at 59 feet, but the parapet elements do extend above that. So, and that's assuming a zero mean average grade at the first floor. So in other words, no change. I think the site's relatively flat. And so the bottom of the main roof members would be 51'8". The top of the building roof would be 59 feet, at least in this proposal. And then any of those parapets or extensions would be above 59 feet.
And that's what we
That's
want to know,
detailed in
what
these-
the
in
height
these
of the
plans.
parapets are. If-
There's no distinguishing height on those parapets that would normally be at least, say, 30 inches or somewhere in that range.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't know, I have 64 feet with a parapet, but doesn't, like he said, it's actually measured to the roof, so.
I don't know, I thought we always measured to the top of the parapet.
No.
Okay,
But it's certainly over 60 feet in height to the top of the maximum projection on the building, certainly over that.
okay. All right, anything else? Anything else you would like to ask us or add before then?
No, I appreciate the feedback, and we'll be responding in writing to all the questions, and we'll provide more detailed feedback on the height of the building, and we'll have a new exhibit which shows that very clearly for everybody, that it's very clear what the height at each individual location is as shown on the plans.
Good, thank you.
Of course.
We will need a waiver for time. Denise will talk to you about that. Okay? So we are going, I'm waiting for a motion from the board.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I motion that we continue case number 4168 to July, what?
21.
21.
All those in favor?
I would second that.
So Mike made the motion, Peter seconded it, and we're continuing until
Mr. Chair,
yes.
if I may, just when you continue it, I recommend identifying topics to be discussed. As part of this motion, I recommend you identify topics to be discussed at the continued hearing.
Okay, okay.
That should cover everything,
Yes.
Yeah,
That-
peer review from,
right? And staff comments.
Yes. Everybody agree with that?
You might mention traffic too, because we haven't talked about that, but that's.
Well, that was part
it's in
of,
there. but-
part of it was the traffic. So would that do that we have to satisfy both the peer review, that they have to satisfy both the peer review and staff comments?
The Beals and Thomas peer review.
If you can get more specific, for example, but I think that would be fine.
Okay, okay, you get that, Denise?
Satisfies peer review and staff comments? That's it?
Yes. Okay.
Great.
We have a motion on the floor by Michael and a second by Peter to continue this case till July the 21st at 6 PM, and we will be looking for the answers for peer review, new set of plans that have been upgraded with details on them, and staff's, DPW and all of them.
Fire and DPW.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Great, thank you
Okay,
very much.
all those in favor? It is unanimous. We will see you on July the 21st.
Thank you very much, have a great night.
We're going to take about a 5-minute recess here in order to put some things together. And then we have a couple of more administrative things to take care of. Okay,
I think it was David requested the
yes,
van.
yes, okay.
The other one requested.
Good evening, we're back in session. Thank you for your patience. Our next case will be Coastal Roots, 11 Richards Road. Who is here?
Yeah. Thought they were going to stay for you.
Go right ahead.
Is your microphone on, the green light?
It is now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brandon Lynch, owner of Coastal Roots. Thank you for having me. I've returned with a new floor plan drawing that's depicted the largest size delivery van you'd probably find in the industry. One of the Sprinter vans, just to depict that we could, in the event the vehicle can back up with no issues with that existing floor plan that we have. It's a tight squeeze, but there are also other companies that utilize smaller vehicles, more fuel efficient. So can't guarantee every delivery is going to be coming in a large Sprinter van, but yeah, that was really, it seemed like the major thing bringing me back here. So that's really all I got for you guys.
Questions?
Well, David, how you feel, because actually you're the one that requested.
Yeah, no, I'm satisfied with it.
Okay,
It does fit. Smaller ones would certainly even fit better, but unloading and in the back, there's room for that. So I'm fine with that, meeting that condition.
okay, very good. I await the board's pleasure.
I'm just looking to see which condition it was.
It was 1A. 1A, petitioners to return informally demonstrating vehicle clearance.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that he fulfilled on case number
63.
4163, that he fulfilled condition 1A.
I'll second.
All those in favor? It is unanimous. Go right ahead.
Thank you very much.
No,
Appreciate
you're
it.
still
Appreciate
coming,
it.
he's still coming back for the agreement,
Yes.
host
Yes.
agreement.
Thank you.
He needs to come back for that? It's all set, right,
Well-
Brandon?
Oh, no, what, for the MO, for the host agreement?
the
No,
HCA.
you do not have to come back for
I
that.
don't see any reason to come back for that, since they changed the legislation.
Okay.
That the burden is on the town on this one, not the applicant, as far as I'm
And-
That's the
concerned.
selectman.
I believe our in-house
Thank you.
attorney said that
You're welcome.
everything was all set.
Yes.
Okay,
Good to
so,
go?
no, you don't have to come back for the host agreement. You are all set.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and lastly, case number 3490 Late Night LLC, 59 Long Pond Road. We do not have to read an ad for that. Who will be presenting?
Who's going to sit on it?
Mr. Shaw, how are you, sir?
Who's going to sit on it?
Oh, this is conditioned, so it's the 5 regular, I don't know. Which one of the alternates? Flip a coin.
David?
David.
Next.
Yeah, David's up next anyway.
And he was here for this probably.
Yes,
I'm not sure it was, but that's okay.
I think you were.
But you are now.
Yeah. This goes back a long way, David. Go right ahead.
I'm here on 2 issues. Essentially, we had meetings with the building inspector, and we had changes.
Microphone.
Changes to the landscaping and changes to the circulation. The landscaping is driven by the tenants, and so is the circulation issue. We had proposed a planting plan that went in, but the one that you see on the ground is more a Starbucks presentation and what they require, save the Holman Road section, which is much more planted. It's planted similar to what was shown on the original plan that went in. The circulation plan, we had proposed a rumble strip and a do not enter sign coming at the bank. The bank said, we can't have that. We'd like you to go around. I said, we have a problem with crosswalks and people who are going to be on the other side. And so we put two signs up, one, a pedestrian sign in the middle of that crosswalk, and then a slow right outside the window from the bank, a big sign that says, go slow as you make this left-hand turn. As you go through there, there's not much room to go fast. You can make it around simply the curves and the corners, and everything seemed to work well. And the layout and the geometry of everything else is exactly as approved.
Okay, so
Essentially, that's it. Those are the two issues that we could not answer without your input, particularly the Starbucks issue with planting, and the bank, and Starbucks with the drive-through issue. The news about the drive-through is that this one, actually, this is how it works today. It required us before to cut across the queue lane. And in other words, if you left the bank and there was a queue at Starbucks, in order to get around to the outside, you had to cut through that queue unless they paid attention to what we were trying to do, is say, stop here and leave a space and then go through. It doesn't work. So what we did is separate it all together. So now Starbucks has an endless queue if they need it, which sometimes they do, and the bank has the ability to make the turn out. The other concern that came up during some site inspections was that going through into this little parking area that's about 6 spaces between the two buildings, would people want to cut through into the Starbucks area? Well, there's 2 signs there now, do not enter, and a big do not enter across the bottom. So you go in, you turn around, and you come back out, and that's it. So those are the issues that were outstanding so far, and anything else that you folks might have that came up in any site inspections you might have done.
Well, I mean, oh, I didn't know. Okay, so I think individually, not together, but I think Tom, myself, and, well, I'm sure everybody went out there. But the guardrail, in my opinion, didn't go far enough towards the front of the building, because to be truthful with you, you're still, where your guardrail ends, there's still about an 8 or 10 foot drop.
We'll bring that back and see if they can extend that, or we'll extend that, if that's the
Because, I
requirement.
mean, that's, to me, is not appropriate there, because, again, is, you know, the whole idea that, you know, somebody going through the Starbucks line pulls over, you know, oh, it's taking too long, I'm gonna take off, pulls over, and somebody steps on the brake and misses the gas, you're off the edge there, you know? So that's one concern I had.
Right there.
The other concern I had, I'm not looking for separation, but I think there should be still some kind of a speed bump. I don't care that they use it, I understand, that's why we did that, so they can use that to leave, but I just want to make people more aware, because you're pulling, this is kind of a situation that we did up at Santander, and there's quite a few accidents, because there's 2 different directions of where things are going.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'd still like to see, I don't care if you do it in tar or something, but it's some kind of, just a speed bump to make sure they're aware that there's people backing up, there's people walking, you know.
I'll take that back to the owners and move in that appropriate direction. We have a couple other things to do, but we're working at, and I'll be glad to bring that to them.
Actually, Bill, we need an answer tonight, because you want an occupancy permit, and these are questions that are hanging.
Okay. John, extending the guardrail, is that an issue?
Well, when we met with the town DBA, they wanted plants through there. We put
put plants right up to where their
You can-
guardrail is now. You really can't have plants and the guardrail. I
We-
mean, we can take the plants out and.
We
extend
want the guardrail.
Extend the guardrail, not the end of the world.
And you, if you're going to present, please come to the microphone, because this is being recorded.
I'm sorry. I didn't think I was gonna be talking.
No, it's being recorded, and
Okay, I'm sorry.
the TV camera can't see you back there.
Okay.
You're on TV.
I'm on TV, wow.
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay, my name's John Moon, I work for Brad Cushing, and when we met with the town, they wanted plants along that area in between the curb and the fence. So we brought that there. Now, that's a straightaway, so it's gonna be, I won't say it's impossible, but somebody to go through a drive-through through Starbucks or the pass-through lane, to take a right turn and go through that. The curb is kind of high, and then you got the fence, but we can extend the guardrail and how many more feet?
You know, I haven't talked to Michael about this, and Mike and I usually go out and look at a lot of things together and everything. I hadn't talked to him about that, but today, 2 different board members have said the same thing, including me, that guardrail didn't go far enough. Wherever you can have a car drop off 3 or 4 feet, you need a guardrail. That, in my opinion, has to cover all of Holman Road for that whole slope there. Because by the time you get it even out to the handicap ramp there,
Yeah.
you still have a 3 or a 4 foot drop by the time you
I
get down
agree
to
with you.
Holman Road.
Maybe a little bit more, yeah, I agree with you.
So a guardrail needs to be there, all the way down to there, because safety comes first.
All the way down to the handicap ramp.
Correct. That's in my opinion. I think that the other board members feel that way, but we will listen to them and let them weigh in on it. But you just heard Michael. I know another board member that's going to probably bring up the same thing. So, yeah, we want that down there. The town can request for plantings and stuff, but we make the decisions.
I just follow orders. Anything else? Are you guys good?
Question.
Yes.
Boy, this is a test of my memory. This goes back a ways. But, Bill, you said that we had approved, I think, some landscaping, but Starbucks didn't like it.
Yeah, they don't make the
They have a
decisions.
program of their own, and if you look at the low-level planting that goes in, and if you look at other Starbucks, they all look
And I don't
pretty
care about
good.
other Starbucks. and
I
don't
know.
care-
No,
who
in
are they
town.
to tell us that?
Exactly. Thank you, Peter.
But as I recall, the night, years ago, I know, that I was, and a couple others were concerned about people sitting in that parking lot at night with lights on, shooting
Headlights.
out over that road with that other intersection on the other side. And I thought it was established that there would be some berms or hills there to kind of prohibit that, but I don't see that.
No.
And if I don't see that because Starbucks doesn't like it, I could care less.
Well, there was no berm on this one, there was plantings.
So put the plantings in that were originally put there, period. So let's go back a couple of steps. When that project was first built, and Mr. Manfredi was still the Director of Inspectional Services, that original parking lot between those islands was supposed to be bermed 3 feet, and then plantings. And it never got done, and it never got done, and it never got done. And then when they came back to start this project, I told Mr. D'Ambrosio, I believe I told you, I told them all, if this board wanted to be real hard, we could stop that and make you go back and do what you were supposed to do. Don't push it. Put the plants in that were supposed to be on the plan. Enough is enough.
So to recapitulate, we'll do the planting that blocks the lights
Do the
across
planting
plan.
according to the original.
plan, and extend the guardrail up to the handicap ramp.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to get into that, but don't push me. Go put your plants in. Go fix the guardrail. Go put a speed bump in. Everybody will be happy.
If
Any
that's the
other
position of the board,
questions?
I suspect that's what we'll do.
Suspected because you've got
Do
only
it,
a few
right.
days to get it done before you want your occupancy permit, and he can't give that to you until we say so.
Fine?
They're on temporary occupancy.
We'll give them like a temporary 30-day occupancy permit, but if that isn't done by then,
I know. The fire department came, they asked us to put it in. I just put it in. Now, how do you put a berm? You already installed it. You gotta cut the water line. And that's why that berm is there.
I understand that, and so do they.
I don't think they do it 5 or 6 times.
exactly. All right, what say you, Bill?
That we'll go ahead and complete the speed bump, the planting, and extend the guardrail.
Bingo!
And
And he'll give you a permit. What we will do is, if this is amenable to Jason, give him a 30-day temporary until you know that all of that stuff is done, and then give them their regular one?
Yeah, to be quite transparent, Bill Shaw, Brad Cushion, John, and I have met in advance of this, discussed and negotiated to a certain degree to allow for a 30-day temp that began on last Friday, with a very clear understanding that if it wasn't negotiated and resolved within 30 days in front of this board, that the Starbucks would actually surrender their occupancy permit. So they have already in place a conditional occupancy based upon a favorable outcome with you guys.
Okay, good. I don't want to stop them from opening their business.
No, but to be, again, quite clear, they've been working with me this entire time. They're here, and for what it's worth, I think they're attempting to try and find the middle ground of a variety of things. So.
Okay. I just want you to be satisfied so that it doesn't come back and bite us, it bites you.
No, I think in this case, you've made it clear to Bill and the applicant. I do think that, none of us are out there counting plantings, so to speak, but that there's an understanding of impression. Now, whether the board wants to go back and visit the site after they make some revisions, I think,
No, we're gonna, it's out of our hands. They know what they need to do, you know what they need to do. If you tell us it didn't get done 30 days from now, then we'll have a problem,
Understood.
okay?
no.
All right, so I await the board's pleasure.
Well, I don't think there was anything to vote on.
Well, yeah, kind of, we just, did they resolve the conditions? They're here to resolve those conditions.
I would present that, given the fact that the applicant is substantially conforming with the original approved plans, that there's no vote needed.
Okay, all right.
Would you agree, Bill?
I agree, because most of what was just said is add-ons, that the guardrail, the plants, and the little berm that you talked about in the back there, the bump, those things were proposed in one form or another
Okay.
on the original plan in the same location.
Okay,
So it's just an informal,
okay. All right. We're all good.
Thank you for your time.
You betcha. What was that? All right, next, we need this is all preliminary board stuff. We're gonna do some notes, meeting minutes and stuff, so the fun part is over.
But you're welcome to stay if you'd like.
But yeah, hey, you want to put an application in? Shucks. right, minutes for, which meetings are we? I'm gonna go find those. Oh, boy. This is you, Michael.
Well, the 17th, though, so we do have members, Ron,
Yeah.
because Mike was out, couldn't sit on it. Kevin O'Reilly wasn't,
Yeah, I couldn't say.
Mike couldn't sit on it, Kevin couldn't sit on it. So we had Tom, no, actually
Just-
Tom, she didn't want to have him, so it was Peter, myself, David, and Ed.
That sounds
And
right.
Ed was there. Mike and Kevin were absent.
Right, right.
I remember that night well.
Why?
Oh, gee.
All right, is there a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes of March 17th, pending the, corrections as noted.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes for May the 5th.
Boy, we have to issue 5 demerits to Denise.
Those,
You could give me 10, so we're even.
those look fine.
Fine to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of May 5th,
All those in
2025.
favor?
I'll second that.
We don't even
Oh, you
need
don't
a
need a
second.
second.
Are you in
Okay.
favor? Denise did
In
a
favor.
sterling job again.
Hey,
That, I believe, concludes the business for this evening. I thank all of you for watching at home. Good evening.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All those in favor? We are adjourned.